An American tourist reported our cafe to TripAdvisor because the barista told him to have a good one. He claimed this was discrimination because the barista didn't specify what kind of good one he should have. He wrote a 2,000-word review explaining how Australian vagueness causes emotional distress and violates international customer service protocols. He demanded we train all staff in American specificity standards. His wife nodded along and said their therapist back home agrees ambiguous well-wishes are passive aggression. If you can already tell this isn't your average tourist story, you'll fit right in here. I track these cultural collisions full-time, so if context and satire are your thing, you know what to do. A woman from Texas insisted we remove the word thongs from our beachwear signs because it was sexually inappropriate for families. When we explained thongs are flip-flops in Australia, she said that made it worse because now we're lying to cover up perversion. She brought a printed dictionary definition from an American website as proof. She stood in our store for 40 minutes, reading it aloud to other customers as a warning. She called it educational activism. An American dad asked why we don't have ranch dressing for the pavlova. When we explained pavlova is a dessert, he said that's exactly why it needs ranch, because sweet things are better with creamy things. He insisted he has a refined palate from watching Food Network. He offered to teach our chef about flavor pairing and said he'd waive his consulting fee if we named a menu item after him. He suggested the Brett's Bold Fusion Pavdata tourist complained that when she said howdy to an Australian, he responded with "yeah, nah" instead of howdy back. She said this violated the Universal Greeting Reciprocity Law. She claimed there's an international treaty requiring people to mirror greetings. When we told her "yeah, nah" means maybe or "I understand, but disagree," she accused us of making up slang to confuse Americans. She said it's geographical gaslighting. A man from Florida reported our hotel to the embassy because there were no ice machines in the hallways. He explained Americans have a biological need for ice that Australians don't understand. He said our founding fathers put ice in everything and it's cultural heritage. He demanded we install 17 ice machines immediately or provide him free daily ice delivery to his room. He called the lack of ice a human rights violation. He had printed the Geneva Convention. An American woman insisted our newsagent should be called a magazine store because newsagent sounds like a spy job. She said the name causes intelligence anxiety in tourists who worry they're accidentally entering a government facility. She claimed she has geographical nomenclature disorder, where unfamiliar names trigger fight or flight responses. She wanted us to petition Parliament to rename all newsagents for American clarity. She already had the petition drafted with 200 signatures. From her Facebook group, a tourist from Michigan said our kangaroo crossing signs are false advertising because he drove for 3 hours and didn't see a single kangaroo cross. He accused the government of putting up fake wildlife signs to boost tourism revenue. He demanded a refund for his rental car fuel and compensation for emotional distress caused by zoological disappointment. He said David Attenborough documentaries led him to believe kangaroos would be everywhere. He threatened to sue for documentary misrepresentation. A woman complained that Australians say no worries too much, and it's medically dangerous. Because it trains people not to worry about things they should worry about. Most people scroll past cultural absurdity. I mapped the psychology behind it. If you like decoding the why beneath the weird, stay close. She claimed her son developed chronic under-concern syndrome from spending 2 weeks in Sydney. She said now he's too relaxed about deadlines and hygiene. She demanded the Australian Tourism Board add warning labels about excessive optimism. She called it psychological colonization through positivity. An American dad insisted our school should teach American history instead of Australian history because American history is more important globally. He said his daughter was being disadvantaged by learning about convicts instead of cowboys. He claimed knowing about Ned Kelly instead of Billy the Kid would hurt her college applications. He offered to donate his son's American flag and teach a weekly class on the real founding fathers. He said Australians are just British people who got lost. A tourist reported our bottle shop to health authorities because we don't keep alcohol in the refrigerated section. He said room temperature beer violates the Cold Beer Amendment of the American Constitution. He insisted all civilized nations store beer at 34 degrees Fahrenheit. When we explained Australians drink beer at cellar temperature, he said that proved we're not civilized. He demanded we install walk-in coolers or post warnings that beer might be tepid. He called it thermal beverage fraud. A woman from California said our beach signs are psychologically manipulative because they say swim between the flags instead of please swim between the flags. She claimed the lack of politeness triggers her confrontational communication disorder. She said direct instructions without please make her feel controlled. She demanded we add please, kindly, and if you don't mind to all safety signs. She already redesigned them with softer language and brought laminated copies. She said Australian directness is a form of verbal bullying. An American couple insisted our tour guide was being sarcastic the entire time, and they wanted their money back. The guide was giving straight historical facts about Sydney Harbour. They said no Australian actually talks that way without irony, and they felt mocked. They claimed they have sarcasm detection syndrome, where they can sense hidden meanings normal people miss. They demanded a certified non-sarcastic American guide instead. They brought a sarcasm meter app that beeped the entire tour. A man complained that Australians abbreviated too many words, and it was making his brain work harder than necessary. He said servo, rego, arvo, and brekkie violate his cognitive simplicity rights. He insisted Americans have longer attention spans and need full words. He demanded we speak in complete unabbreviated English or provide him an Australian to American translation device. He said syllable reduction is linguistic laziness. He spent 20 minutes explaining how democracy depends on complete words. A tourist from Ohio said our coffee shops discriminate against real coffee by only serving espresso-based drinks. She asked for a pot of Folgers and seemed offended we don't have pots. She explained Americans invented coffee, and we're doing it wrong with tiny cups. She said espresso is just coffee that gave up halfway through being coffee. She demanded we import American coffee makers and serve freedom-sized portions. She called our flat whites communist beverage propaganda. A woman insisted our pharmacy should sell Advil, not Nurofen, because identical medications with different names cause brand confusion disorder. She said her brain is trained to recognize specific packaging colors, and changing them is psychological warfare. She brought photos of her American medicine cabinet to show us the right way. She demanded Australian pharmacies standardize to American brand names for cognitive consistency. She said seeing unfamiliar packages triggers her pharmaceutical anxiety. She had a doctor's note from a website. An American dad complained that our footy game was false advertising because nobody used their feet. He paid $200 for tickets expecting soccer. When we explained Australian football is different, he said that's trademark infringement on the word football. He demanded the sport be renamed Australian handball or we refund his tickets. He claimed the NFL has global copyright on the term football. He threatened to contact his congressman about international sports fraud. He was wearing a Cowboys jersey to prove his expertise. A tourist said our public transport voice announcements sound too cheerful, and it's triggering her pessimism balance disorder. She explained Americans need reminders that things might go wrong to maintain healthy skepticism. She said overly positive announcements create false security. She demanded our trains announce delays with more gravitas and add phrases like unfortunately and we regret. She said Australian optimism is a public health hazard. She already wrote alternate announcements with appropriate doom levels. A woman from Georgia insisted our Christmas decorations in December were wrong because it's summer here. She said Christmas belongs in winter, and having it in summer violates the seasonal integrity of the holiday. She claimed her Christmas spirit disorder means she can't process festive feelings above 75 degrees. She demanded Australia switch to July Christmas or install air conditioning outdoors. She said Santa suffering from heat exhaustion sends the wrong message to children. She wanted to speak to the Prime Minister about seasonal correction. An American couple reported our restaurant because the menu said entree for the main course. They ordered 3 entrees thinking they were appetizers and got massive meals. When we explained entree means main course in Australia, they said we purposely switched the meanings to confuse tourists. They accused us of linguistic sabotage. They demanded we adopt American menu terminology or add a 40-page glossary. They said menu translation fraud caused them to overeat, and they're considering litigation. They took photos of their plates as evidence. A man complained that Australians say capsicum instead of bell pepper, and it sounds like a medicine that makes him not want to eat vegetables. He claimed pharmaceutical nomenclature disorder, where medical-sounding words trigger his prescription anxiety. He said calling it capsicum is why Australians probably don't eat enough vegetables. He demanded we rename all produce to American terms or label them clearly. He brought a laminated list of correct vegetable names. He said, botanical linguistics affect nutrition compliance. A tourist insisted our lifeguards should be called pool watchers because lifeguard implies they guard lives, and that's too much pressure. She said Americans have occupational title sensitivity where job names affect their mental health. She claimed the word guard creates aggressive energy. She demanded we rename them aquatic safety observers to reduce workplace stress. She already had new uniform designs with softer terminology. She said, linguistic gentleness improves rescue response times. An American woman said, our wildlife warning signs cause PTSD because they're too honest about dangerous animals. She claimed American signs would say, watch for friends, not danger. She insisted positive reinforcement signage, where we remind tourists that most spiders are nice, creates better outcomes. She demanded we redesign all warning signs to be encouraging rather than frightening. She brought examples that said things like, snakes are doing their best. She called it motivational safety communication. A man from Arizona complained that our tap water doesn't taste like freedom. He said American water has a specific liberty flavor from the minerals, and ours tastes like obedience. He claimed he has democratic taste buds calibrated to detect authoritarian hydration. He demanded we import American water or add freedom minerals to our supply. He brought a water testing kit that measured patriotism levels. He said our water scored a 3 out of 10 on the independent scale. He wanted to meet with our water commissioner about flavor sovereignty.